Homeless boy rescues a lost toddler on Thanksgiving Eve and decides to find his family. But what the boy discovers leaves him in tears. The icy November wind clawed at Ryan's face as he huddled deeper into his tattered hoodie. 16 years old and already a veteran of Chicago streets, he had learned to blend into the shadows. Tonight, the city was alive with anticipation. Families carrying bags of groceries, laughter spilling out of doorways, and windows glowing with warm, golden light. Thanksgiving Eve had turned the downtown streets into a bustling carnival of activity. People hurried past Ryan, their arms laden with golden turkeys, freshly baked pies, and bundles of sage and rosemary. The smells followed them, trailing like ghosts of kitchens filled with love. Turkey roasting, bread baking, cinnamon simmering. It was intoxicating, almost cruel. It reminded Ryan of a world he used to be a part of. Across the street, a family struggled with their shopping. A little boy clutched his mother's hand as his father carried a mountain of bags. The boys' laughter rang out as they all tried to balance the load, their faces pink from the cold but full of joy. Ryan lingered, watching them for a moment too long. His stomach growled, but he clenched his jaw and turned away. There was no point in torturing himself. The last Thanksgiving he could remember had been 3 years ago, before everything had fallen apart. The smell of his mom's pecan pie cooling on the counter, the way she sang softly as she set the table. Those memories were as warm as they were distant. The fire that had taken his home and his parents had extinguished more than just a roof over his head. It had stolen his place in the world. Ryan shoved his hands into his pockets and trudged toward Grant Park. The park had become a sort of refuge over the past year, a place where he could disappear. But tonight, even the park felt alive. Strings of golden lights decorated the trees, their glow cutting through the darkness. Couples strolled along the paths, some holding hands, others clutching steaming cups of coffee. The biting wind picked up, forcing Ryan to wrap his hoodie tighter around himself. It wasn't much against the cold, but it was all he had. His sneakers, worn and frayed at the edges, crunched over frost-covered leaves as he made his way toward a bench near the fountain. The benches were his usual resting spot when he had nowhere else to go. The fountain, now turned off for the winter, seemed lonely under the glow of a nearby street lamp. As he sat, he caught sight of his reflection in the dark glass of a nearby storefront. His hollow cheeks and sunken eyes stared back at him, a reminder of the countless nights spent sleeping rough, the meals missed, the hope lost. For a moment he looked away, unable to face himself. The world around him seemed to hum with energy. A group of carolers nearby rehearsed under a streetlight, their voices soft but cheerful. Silent Night carried through the crisp air, a melody of warmth and serenity. Ryan found himself closing his eyes, letting the sound wash over him. He didn't believe in miracles anymore, but the song stirred something inside him, a faint longing for comfort, for belonging. "Hey, kid!" A gruff voice snapped him out of his thoughts. Ryan turned quickly, his muscles tense. A street vendor stood a few feet away, his tray of roasted peanuts steaming in the cold air. The man studied Ryan for a moment before tossing a small bag of peanuts his way. "On the house," the vendor said, already walking away. "Looks like you need it more than I do." Ryan stared at the warm bag in his hands, the faint aroma of roasted nuts wafting up. "Thanks," he mumbled. But the vendor was already disappearing into the crowd. For a moment, Ryan held the bag close to his chest, letting the heat seep into his frozen fingers. It wasn't much, but it was something. A chill gust of wind swept through the park, rattling the branches of the trees and sending a shiver through Ryan's thin frame. He leaned back on the bench, his gaze lifting to the sky. The stars were faint, washed out by the city's lights, but they were there, tiny, distant, and unreachable. They reminded him of the life he once had, a life that now felt as far away as those stars. Tomorrow would come, as it always did, bringing with it the same challenges and uncertainties. But for tonight, Ryan allowed himself a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this Thanksgiving would bring something different. Something more than the cold bench and the ache of hunger. And so he sat, cradling the bag of peanuts, as the city carried on around him. Its laughter, music, and celebration drifting through the air like a bittersweet melody. Ryan woke the next morning, his back stiff from the unforgiving bench. The city had quieted in the early hours, but a light blanket of frost coated the grass and glistened on the park's empty benches. He flexed his fingers to bring some warmth back to them, his breath clouding the air as he exhaled. The peanuts from the night before sat untouched in his pocket. He had clung to them more for comfort than sustenance, unwilling to let go of the tiny kindness that had reminded him he wasn't completely invisible. As the sun rose higher, warming the park slightly, Ryan stood and started walking, unsure of his next destination. The familiar pull of hunger gnawed at him, but the city had taught him to ignore it. He wandered past the playground at the park center, where empty swings swayed gently in the cold wind. A faint sound stopped him in his tracks. At first, he thought it was just the creaking of the swings, but then he heard it again, a soft, muffled sob. Ryan hesitated. He had trained himself to stay out of other people's business. Survival on the streets meant avoiding unnecessary trouble. But something about the cry drew him in. It wasn't the angry shouts of an argument or the irritated whines of a lost tourist. It was fragile, scared, like a wounded bird. He followed the sound, weaving through the empty play structures until he spotted a small figure curled up by the base of the slide. It was a little girl, no older than 6 or 7, trembling in the cold. Her red coat was smudged with dirt, and she clutched a ragged teddy bear tightly to her chest. Ryan approached cautiously, his footsteps crunching on the frosty ground. "Hey," he called softly, careful not to startle her. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up, her tear-streaked face pale and blotchy. She sniffled, gripping her teddy bear tighter. I'm lost," she stammered, her voice breaking. Ryan crouched a few feet away, lowering himself to her eye level. "What's your name?" he asked, keeping his tone gentle. "Emily," she whispered, her big, round eyes filled with fear. "Hi, Emily," Ryan said, offering her a faint smile. "I'm Ryan. What happened? How did you get lost?" Emily wiped her nose with her sleeve, her breath hitching as she tried to explain. I was playing in the backyard," she said. "Mama and Daddy were making Thanksgiving dinner. I climbed the fence, but then I couldn't find my way back." Ryan's chest tightened at her words. She had wandered from her home, unaware of how dangerous the world could be. He glanced around, half expecting frantic parents to appear, but the park was empty. "Do you know where you live?" he asked. "What street?" Emily shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know. I just want to go home." Ryan's first instinct was to take her to the police, but his gut twisted at the thought. He wasn't exactly in a position to answer questions about himself. The last thing he needed was for anyone to start digging into his life. Still, he couldn't just leave her here. "Okay," he said finally, his voice steady. "It's gonna be all right. We'll figure this out." Emily looked at him uncertainly, her grip on the teddy bear unrelenting. Ryan shifted, uncomfortable under her gaze. He wasn't used to people relying on him for anything, let alone a child. Yet something about her vulnerability stirred something deep within him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Compassion. He reached out a hand to her, palm up. "Come on," he said. "Let's get out of the cold. I know a place nearby where we can sit for a while." Emily hesitated, her small fingers clutching the teddy bear so tightly that Ryan wondered if it might burst at the seams. But then she reached out, her tiny hand slipping into his. The gesture was small, but it felt monumental. Ryan led her out of the park, the city stretching before them. The streets that usually felt indifferent now seemed charged with purpose. He didn't know what he was going to do next or how he'd manage to help her, but one thing was clear. For the first time in a long while, he had someone depending on him. Ryan held tightly to Emily's small hand as they emerged from the park and into the bustling streets of Chicago. The morning sun had climbed higher, cutting through the icy air but doing little to soften the chill. Emily walked beside him, her head bowed and her grip on her teddy bear unyielding. Her tears had dried, but her sniffles betrayed the fear still simmering inside her. Ryan's mind raced as they passed rows of storefronts and cafes. Taking her to the police seemed like the obvious choice, but the thought made his stomach churn. He had no ID, no story, and no reason to trust the authorities. One wrong question, one scrutinizing look, and he could end up in more trouble than he could handle. For a moment, he glanced down at Emily. Her big eyes darted around nervously, scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. She trusted him now, even if she didn't fully understand what that trust meant. He didn't want to break it. The sweet scent of cinnamon and chocolate drifted from a cafe across the street, its glass windows fogged from the warmth inside. Ryan made a quick decision. "Come on," he said, steering Emily toward the entrance. "Let's take a break." The cafe was cozy, filled with the hum of quiet conversation and the clatter of coffee cups. A small bell jingled as they stepped inside, and the warmth hit them like a comforting blanket. Ryan led Emily to a corner booth near the window, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of trouble. Most of the patrons were engrossed in their laptops or books, oblivious to the pair. "Wait here," he told her, sliding into the booth. "I'll be right back." Emily nodded, hugging her teddy bear tightly. Her legs swung beneath the table, not quite reaching the floor. Ryan approached the counter, fishing into his pocket for the few coins he had left. It wasn't much, barely enough for one cup of something small. The barista, a kind-faced woman with auburn hair, greeted him with a polite smile. "Hot chocolate," Ryan said, sliding the coins across the counter. The woman glanced at him, then at Emily sitting alone at the booth. "You want whipped cream with that?" Ryan hesitated, wondering if he could afford the extra cost, but the woman waved him off. "On the house," she said with a wink, disappearing behind the counter to prepare the drink. When Ryan returned to the booth, Emily's eyes lit up at the sight of the steaming mug in his hands. "For you," he said, sliding it toward her. Her hands wrapped around the cup, and for the first time, a small smile broke through her fear. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ryan sat across from her, watching as she took her first cautious sip. The whipped cream left a white mustache on her upper lip, and she giggled softly, wiping it away with her sleeve. As she drank, the tension in her shoulders seemed to ease. She looked at Ryan with wide, curious eyes. "Are you like a superhero?" Ryan blinked, taken aback by the question. "A superhero?" he repeated, his lips twitching into a faint smirk. Emily nodded earnestly. "You found me, and you're helping me. That's what superheroes do." Ryan leaned back, his smirk fading as her words sank in. He didn't feel like a superhero. He felt like a fraud, a lost kid barely holding his own life together. But Emily didn't see that. She saw him as someone who had stepped up when she needed it most. "What about you?" Ryan asked, steering the conversation away from himself. "Tell me about your family. What's Thanksgiving like at your house?" Emily's face lit up, her fears momentarily forgotten. She launched into a vivid description of her family's traditions. The giant turkey her mom cooked, the cranberry sauce her dad always burned, and the parade of desserts that covered their kitchen table. Her excitement was infectious, and for a moment, Ryan let himself be drawn into her world, a world filled with love and warmth. But as Emily talked, Ryan felt a pang of guilt. Her parents were likely frantic, searching for her, and he was stalling. The thought weighed heavily on him as she finished her story, her smile fading into a yawn. Ryan glanced at the clock on the cafe wall. Time was slipping away, and he needed to make a decision. He couldn't keep her here forever. "Emily," he said gently, leaning forward, "we need to figure out how to get you home." Her smile faded, and the fear returned to her eyes. "What if I can't find it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You will," Ryan promised, though he wasn't sure how. "We'll figure it out together." Emily nodded, her trust in him unwavering. As she rested her head on the table, her exhaustion taking over, Ryan knew he was running out of time. He had to find a way to reunite her with her family without drawing too much attention to himself. For now, though, he let her sleep, the half-empty mug of hot chocolate still warm between her hands. The cafe had grown quieter as the morning stretched into afternoon. Emily was fast asleep in the booth, her head resting on the table and her tiny fingers still clutching her teddy bear. Ryan watched her for a moment, ensuring she was comfortable. The faint smile on her face made it clear she felt safe, even if only for now. Ryan leaned back in his seat, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. His thoughts drifted, unbidden, to his own childhood, a time when Thanksgiving wasn't just another cold day to endure. He could still remember the smell of his mother's pecan pie wafting through their small but cozy home. His dad would sneak a slice before dinner, claiming he was testing the quality, while his mom playfully scolded him. The warmth of their laughter, the sight of the dining table crammed with food, and the soft glow of candles. It was all etched into his memory like a photograph. But the image was incomplete, fractured. The fire had stolen more than just their home. It had erased the sense of security he had taken for granted. That last Thanksgiving had been perfect, yet it had slipped into the abyss of what once was. He exhaled sharply, shaking his head to dispel the memories. This wasn't the time to wallow in his losses. Emily's trust weighed on him now. She didn't need to see his pain. She needed him to be steady, to make decisions, to find solutions. Yet the memories refused to fade. His mother's voice echoed in his mind, a faint whisper of love and encouragement. Even in the darkest moments, "Ryan, you have to find a way to keep going." He glanced at Emily again, her chest rising and falling rhythmically as she slept. Her innocence, her belief that he could fix everything, reminded him of what he had lost but also stirred something he thought he'd buried. Hope. Maybe protecting her, helping her find her family, could bring some semblance of purpose to his otherwise aimless life. The barista's voice pulled him back to the present. "Hey kid, want a refill?" Ryan turned to see her standing near their table, holding the coffee pot. She nodded toward Emily, her expression softening. "She okay?" "Yeah," Ryan replied quietly. "She's just tired." The barista hesitated, then placed a small plate of cookies on the table. "For her," she said, winking. "On the house." Ryan nodded his thanks, his throat tight. The small gestures, the bag of peanuts, the hot chocolate, the cookies, each chipped away at the walls he'd built around himself. They reminded him that kindness still existed, even in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. As the barista walked away, Ryan reached for the plate and placed it closer to Emily. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. He allowed himself a small smile, thinking of how excited she'd be to find the cookies when she woke up. For now, though, he let her sleep. He stared out the window, watching the city buzz with life. Families hurried by with shopping bags and bundled-up kids, their laughter muffled by the glass. The world moved on, oblivious to the weight Ryan carried in his chest. He turned back to Emily, the corners of his mouth twitching into a faint smile. For her, he would keep going. For her, he would find the strength to be the person she believed he was. The sun had climbed high into the sky by the time Emily woke, blinking sleepily as she rubbed her eyes. She sat up slowly, clutching her teddy bear. Her gaze fell on the plate of cookies, and a small, delighted smile spread across her face. "Did you get these?" she asked Ryan, her voice still groggy. Ryan nodded. "The lady at the counter left them for you." Emily picked up a cookie and nibbled on it. "They're good," she said between bites. "Thank you." Ryan gave her a faint smile but said nothing. He had been planning their next move while she slept, and the time to act was now. The city wouldn't stay patient forever, and neither would Emily's family. "Emily," he said gently, leaning forward, "we need to try and find your home. Do you remember anything? Your address? What your house looks like? Maybe a street name?" Emily frowned in concentration, her small face scrunching up as she tried to recall details. "There's a big tree in the front yard," she said slowly, "and a red door." Ryan nodded, encouraging her. "Anything else? Do you remember what's nearby? A park? A school?" She shook her head, her expression clouding with frustration. "I don't know," she said, her voice rising. "I just want my mommy and daddy." Ryan held up his hands to calm her. "Hey, it's okay. We'll figure it out." He paused, trying to choose his next words carefully. "I think I might know where to start." Emily sniffled but nodded, placing her trust in him once again. Ryan stood and offered her his hand. "Come on." As they stepped out into the brisk afternoon air, Ryan led Emily back toward the park where they had met. It was the only clue he had. Perhaps her family was still searching there, or maybe someone had left a sign. A clue. The city stretched endlessly around them, its towering buildings and winding streets both a comfort and a labyrinth. When they reached the park, Ryan's heart sank. The space was emptier than it had been earlier, the cold weather keeping most people indoors. Still, he scanned every corner, looking for anything that might help. Then he saw it. A bright piece of paper taped to a lamppost near the entrance. As they approached, Ryan's stomach tightened. It was a missing child poster. The words, "Have you seen Emily?" printed in bold letters above a picture of the little girl holding the same teddy bear she now clutched tightly. Below, a phone number was scrawled in black marker. "That's you," Ryan said softly, kneeling to show Emily the poster. Emily's eyes widened as she stared at the picture of herself. "Mommy put that there," she said, her voice a mix of hope and desperation. Ryan straightened, his mind racing. He had a way to contact her parents now, but it wasn't that simple. The phone number on the poster was both a lifeline and a risk. Calling it could bring Emily back to her family, but it could also bring attention to him, attention he couldn't afford. Emily tugged at his sleeve. "Can we call them now? Please?" Ryan looked at her, his chest tightening. He had never seen someone so small carry so much hope in their eyes. She deserved to go home, no matter what it cost him. He nodded. "Yeah, let's find a phone." A payphone stood a few blocks away, its chipped paint and grime-covered buttons a testament to its age. Ryan pulled a handful of coins from his pocket, hoping he had enough. As he dialed the number from the poster, Emily stood beside him, her hand clutching his tightly. The phone rang once, twice, and then a woman's voice answered. "Hello," she said, her tone frantic. "Who is this? Do you know where Emily is?" Ryan hesitated, his throat tightening. He glanced down at Emily, who was staring up at him with wide, hopeful eyes. "I found her," Ryan said finally. "She's safe." The phone line went silent for a moment before the woman on the other end gasped. You have Emily?" Her voice trembled with a mix of hope and fear. "Is she okay? Where is she? Please, let me speak to her." Ryan tightened his grip on the payphone receiver, his mind racing. The relief in her voice was palpable, and for a moment, he felt the weight of her worry. But he couldn't let his guard down just yet. He looked down at Emily, who was clutching his hand, her teddy bear pressed tightly to her chest. "She's fine," Ryan said, his voice measured. "She's with me now. I found her in Grant Park. She's safe." The woman on the line let out a sob of relief, her voice thick with emotion. "Oh, thank God. Thank you. Thank you so much." She took a deep, shaky breath. "I'm Sarah, her mother. Please, where can I meet you? I need to see her." Ryan hesitated. Meeting Emily's family would mean exposing himself, putting his own fragile anonymity at risk. But looking at Emily, her hopeful eyes fixed on the phone, he knew there was no other option. "There's a square a few blocks from the park," Ryan said finally. "By the fountain. Meet us there in an hour." "Yes, of course." Sarah's voice cracked with urgency. "I'll be there. Please, don't let her out of your sight." Ryan hung up without responding, his heart pounding. He turned to Emily and knelt to her level. "We're going to meet your mom soon," he said. Emily's face lit up with joy, tears welling in her eyes. "Really? Really?" Ryan assured her, brushing a strand of hair out of her face. "She's on her way." Emily hugged her teddy bear tightly, her excitement bubbling over. Ryan stood, glancing around to make sure no one was paying them too much attention. The payphone stood on the edge of a busy street, and he felt exposed. "Let's go wait somewhere quieter," he said, taking Emily's hand. They walked to the square, the fountain at its center a familiar landmark for Ryan. It was a place where people often passed without stopping, blending into the rhythm of the city. They found a bench near the fountain, and Ryan sat, his eyes scanning the area. Emily sat beside him, her legs swinging as she clutched her teddy bear. "Do you think Mommy will be mad at me?" she asked suddenly, her voice small. Ryan turned to her, surprised by the question. Mad? Why would she be mad? Because I wandered off, Emily said, her eyes downcast. I wasn't supposed to leave the yard. Ryan shook his head. Your mom's not mad, Emily. She's just worried. She loves you, and she's going to be so happy to see you. Emily looked up at him, her expression softening. You're really nice, she said. Are you a dad? The question caught Ryan off guard, and for a moment he didn't know how to respond. No, he said finally. I'm not. Emily tilted her head, studying him. Then why are you helping me? Ryan hesitated, his gaze drifting to the fountain. Because someone needs to, he said simply. Before Emily could respond, the sound of hurried footsteps caught their attention. Ryan turned to see a woman running toward them, her hair disheveled and her face flushed with worry. Behind her, a man followed, his strides longer but just as frantic. Mommy! Emily cried, jumping off the bench. The woman, Sarah, dropped to her knees, catching Emily in a tight embrace. She sobbed openly, holding her daughter as if she might vanish again. The man, presumably Emily's father, reached them moments later, his hands shaking as he placed them gently on Emily's shoulders. Ryan stood back, his hands stuffed into his pockets as he watched the reunion. He felt a strange mix of relief and discomfort. This was their moment, not his. Sarah looked up, her tear-streaked face breaking into a smile. You're the one who found her, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, glancing away. It's nothing, he mumbled. But Emily wasn't done. She pulled away from her mother just long enough to grab Ryan's hand. Mommy, this is Ryan, she said proudly. He's my superhero. Ryan froze, unsure how to respond. Sarah's eyes softened, her gratitude evident. Ryan, she said, standing. You have no idea what you've done for us. Please, let us do something to thank you. Ryan shook his head, already stepping back. I'm just glad she's okay. But as he turned to leave, Emily's tiny hand tugged on his. Wait, don't go, she pleaded, her eyes wide with worry. For the first time in years, Ryan felt truly seen. But he couldn't let himself get attached. Not now. Not when walking away was the only way to protect himself. Ryan froze for a moment, Emily's small hand clutching his like a lifeline. Her wide, tearful eyes stared up at him, silently begging him not to go. Behind her, Sarah and the man he assumed was her husband exchanged a glance, both of them unsure of how to proceed. Ryan, please, Sarah said softly, stepping closer. We owe you so much. You stayed with her, kept her safe, and brought her back to us. Let us thank you properly. I'm just glad she's okay, Ryan muttered, trying to pull his hand free from Emily's grip. But she wouldn't let go. You can come with us, Emily said, her voice trembling. Come to our house. We're having Thanksgiving dinner. Mommy makes the best turkey. Ryan hesitated, his chest tightening. He hadn't sat at a family table in years. The thought of stepping into their home, of being surrounded by warmth and light, felt almost suffocating. He didn't belong in that world anymore. Emily, he began, his voice soft but firm. You're with your family now. That's what matters. But Emily shook her head. You're my friend, she said, her grip tightening. You saved me. You should come too. Sarah knelt beside Emily, her hand resting gently on her daughter's shoulder. She's right, she said, looking up at Ryan. You don't have to leave. You can come with us, just for a meal. Please. Ryan glanced at the father, who hadn't spoken yet but was watching him intently. The man nodded, his expression serious but kind. You're welcome in our home, he said. Anyone who looks out for Emily is family to us. The word family hit Ryan like a punch to the gut. He wanted to say no, to walk away before he got too close, but Emily's pleading eyes rooted him in place. She trusted him. Maybe, for just one night, he could trust them too. Okay, Ryan said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily's face lit up with a radiant smile, and she hugged his arm tightly. Yay! You'll love it, she said, bouncing on her toes. Sarah stood, a relieved smile on her face. "Thank you," she said softly. "Let's go home." The ride to their house was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Emily chattered in the back seat, describing everything from her favorite stuffed animals to the special dessert her mother always made for Thanksgiving. Ryan sat beside her, listening but not saying much. He couldn't remember the last time he had been in a car that wasn't a bus or a train. When they arrived, the house was exactly as Emily had described. A modest but charming home with a big tree in the yard and a red front door. The smell of roasted turkey and fresh-baked rolls hit Ryan the moment Sarah opened the door, the warmth of the house spilling out into the cold. Come in, Sarah urged, gesturing for Ryan to step inside. He hesitated at the threshold, suddenly feeling out of place. But Emily grabbed his hand and tugged him forward. Inside, the house was alive with the sights and sounds of Thanksgiving. The table was set with a mismatched but homey collection of plates and glasses, and the kitchen was a flurry of activity. A half-carved turkey sat on the counter beside bowls of mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. Ryan stood awkwardly near the door, unsure of what to do with himself. But Sarah guided him to the dining room, pulling out a chair for him at the table. "You're our guest tonight," she said with a smile. "Make yourself comfortable." Emily climbed into the chair beside him, beaming as she set her teddy bear on her lap. "This is the best day ever," she declared. Ryan couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm, even as a knot of anxiety twisted in his stomach. He hadn't been part of a family dinner in so long that he barely remembered how it worked. But as the meal began, the warmth of the room started to seep into him. Halfway through the meal, Sarah raised her glass, her voice trembling with emotion. "This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for my family," she said, glancing at Emily and her husband. "And for Ryan, who brought our little girl back to us. You'll always have a place at our table." Ryan felt the room's attention shift to him, and he stared down at his plate, his face flushing. "I didn't do anything special," he mumbled. But Emily leaned over and whispered, "Yes, you did." As the night wore on, Ryan found himself laughing at Emily's stories and savoring the food he hadn't expected to eat. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of something he thought he'd lost forever: belonging. When the meal ended, Sarah and her husband pulled him aside. "We'd like to help you," Sarah said gently. "We don't know your story, but if you ever need a place to stay or someone to talk to, you're always welcome here." Ryan nodded, unable to find the words to respond. As he stepped outside later that night, the cold biting at his face, he felt something unfamiliar. Hope. Ryan stood in the doorway, the warmth of the house still clinging to him as the cold night air swept across his face. Emily's giggles echoed faintly from inside as Sarah and her husband cleared the table. For the first time in a long while, Ryan felt full. Not just from the food, though the Thanksgiving feast had been more than he'd had in months, but from something harder to name, something like belonging. As he lingered, unsure of how to say goodbye, Sarah appeared behind him, a dish towel draped over her shoulder. She was holding a plastic container packed with leftovers. "For you," she said with a kind smile, extending the container. "I thought you might need this." Ryan hesitated, the urge to refuse bubbling up instinctively. "I don't." "Take it," Sarah interrupted gently. "We'd be honored if you did." Reluctantly, Ryan took the container, mumbling a soft, "Thank you." He could feel her gaze on him, warm but curious, as if she were trying to figure him out. "You don't have anywhere to go tonight, do you?" she asked suddenly, her voice careful, as though she didn't want to scare him off. Ryan's grip on the container tightened, his shoulders tensing. "I'm fine," he said quickly. "Ryan," she said softly, stepping closer, "you don't have to do this alone. We have a guest room. It's not much, but you're welcome to stay here tonight." No strings attached, her offer hung in the air, heavy with implications. Ryan's first instinct was to refuse. He wasn't used to this kind of kindness. It made him feel exposed, vulnerable. But when he glanced back inside, he saw Emily sitting at the table, her teddy bear in her lap, chatting happily with her dad. The thought of walking back out into the cold, leaving this little pocket of warmth and safety, made his chest ache. "I don't want to be a burden," Ryan said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're not," Sarah assured him. "Far from it." Before Ryan could answer, Emily spotted him at the door and ran over, her face lighting up. "Are you staying?" she asked, her voice filled with hope. Ryan looked down at her, her excitement and innocence cutting through his defenses. Slowly, he nodded. "Just for tonight." The guest room was small but cozy, with soft blankets folded neatly at the foot of the bed. Ryan stood awkwardly by the door, unsure of how to settle into the space. The house was quiet now, the chaos of dinner replaced by the peaceful hum of a family winding down for the night. As he sat on the edge of the bed, Ryan's thoughts wandered. He hadn't slept in a real bed in years. The last one had been his, in a home he had long since lost. His fingers brushed the soft quilt, and a wave of emotion threatened to pull him under. This place, this family, it wasn't his, but for a fleeting moment, it felt like it could be. A soft knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. "Ryan?" It was Sarah. "Come in," he said, clearing his throat. She stepped inside, holding a steaming mug of tea. "I thought this might help you sleep," she said, placing it on the bedside table. "Thanks," Ryan murmured, staring down at his hands. Sarah hesitated, then sat in the chair by the desk. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," she began carefully. "But if you ever need someone to listen, we're here." Ryan looked at her, the sincerity in her eyes making it impossible to brush off her kindness. "I haven't had a family in a long time," he admitted quietly, surprising even himself with the confession. "It's just been me." Sarah's face softened, but she didn't press him. "Well," she said after a moment, "you're part of ours now, as long as you want to be." She stood, giving him a gentle smile before leaving the room. Ryan sat in silence for a long time after that, the mug of tea warming his hands. For the first time in years, the ache of loneliness felt a little less sharp. As he lay down that night, staring at the ceiling, he let the weight of the day settle over him. He had found Emily, brought her home, and somehow ended up with a place to rest his head. Maybe, just maybe, this Thanksgiving really was the beginning of something new. The morning light streamed through the curtains, warming Ryan's face and pulling him gently from sleep. For a moment, he lay still, the unfamiliar comfort of a soft mattress disorienting. It took a few seconds to remember where he was. In a real home, surrounded by people who had opened their door to him. He sat up slowly, his body still stiff from years of sleeping on benches and cold ground. The room was quiet, but the faint sound of voices and the clatter of dishes drifted up from downstairs. Hesitantly, he swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood, stretching before heading for the door. Downstairs, the house was already alive with the sounds of family. Emily was at the kitchen table, her teddy bear sitting beside her as she scribbled on a piece of paper. Sarah was at the stove, humming softly as she flipped pancakes, while her husband, Tom, sipped coffee and scanned the morning paper. Emily looked up first, her face breaking into a wide grin. "Ryan!" she exclaimed, hopping down from her chair and running over to him. "Hey," Ryan said, caught off guard by her enthusiasm. She grabbed his hand and tugged him toward the table. "You can sit here," she said, pointing to the chair beside hers. "Mommy's making pancakes. They're the best." Ryan glanced at Sarah, who turned from the stove and gave him a warm smile. "Good morning," she said. "I hope you're hungry." "Yeah," Ryan said softly, taking the seat Emily offered. The warmth of the family's routine surrounded him, both comforting and foreign. As they ate, Tom set his mug down and looked at Ryan. "So," he said, his tone casual but curious, "what's your plan from here?" Ryan froze, the question hitting him harder than he expected. He didn't have a plan, not really. He never had. Survival was the only thing that had mattered, and even that had been a day-to-day struggle. I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded thoughtfully. "That's okay," he said. "Sometimes, you just need a little time to figure things out." Sarah joined the conversation, her expression gentle. "Ryan, I don't know your story, and you don't have to tell us if you're not ready. But you don't have to face this alone. We can help." Ryan looked between them, his chest tightening. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Emily piped up before either of her parents could answer. "Because you're my hero," she said matter-of-factly, as if it were the simplest truth in the world. Sarah smiled and reached across the table, placing a hand over Ryan's. "Because we can," she said. "And because we want to." For a long moment, Ryan didn't know what to say. The walls he had built around himself felt fragile, as though a single kind word could bring them crumbling down. He looked at Emily, her unwavering trust in him shining in her eyes, and then at Sarah and Tom, who regarded him not with pity, but with genuine care. Finally, he spoke. "I've been on my own for a long time," he said, his voice steady but low. "Since I lost my parents. I didn't think I'd ever feel this." He gestured vaguely at the table, at the family around it. "Like I belong somewhere." Tom nodded, his expression serious. "Well, you're welcome here, Ryan. For as long as you need." Sarah leaned forward. "And if you're willing, we'd like to help you find something more permanent. A job? Maybe even a place of your own someday. Whatever you need to get back on your feet." Ryan's chest felt heavy with gratitude, the weight of their kindness pressing against years of isolation. "Thank you," he said, the words barely audible. "I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to," Sarah said gently. "Just promise me one thing." Ryan looked at her, unsure of what she would ask. "Promise me you won't give up on yourself," she said. "Because we won't." Ryan nodded, unable to speak as the lump in his throat grew. For the first time in years, he felt a glimmer of something he thought he'd lost forever: hope. That afternoon, Tom took Ryan aside while Emily and Sarah decorated the living room for Christmas. Boxes of ornaments and tinsel were strewn across the floor, and the sound of holiday music filled the house. "I was serious about what I said earlier," Tom began. "If you're willing, I know a guy who runs a local shelter. It's not just a place to sleep, they offer job training too. Could be a good step." Ryan hesitated. The idea of stepping into something so structured felt overwhelming, but the alternative, continuing to drift, aimless and alone, felt worse. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "That's all I ask," Tom replied, clapping him on the shoulder. By evening, the house was glowing with the soft light of stringed Christmas lights and the warm scent of Sarah's baking. Ryan helped Emily hang the final ornament on the tree, her giggles infectious as she directed him where to place it. For the first time in as long as he could remember, Ryan felt a part of something, no longer a ghost drifting through the world. Maybe, just maybe, he had found the beginning of a new life. Snow dusted the ground outside the house as twilight settled over the neighborhood. Inside, the home glowed with the warmth of string lights and the gentle hum of holiday music. The Christmas tree, now fully decorated with Emily's help, stood proudly in the corner of the living room, a symbol of newfound joy. Ryan sat on the couch, a plate of cookies balanced on his lap, as Emily excitedly recounted her plans for writing to Santa. Across the room, Sarah and Tom exchanged quiet smiles, their gratitude for the day unspoken but palpable. The entire house felt alive, filled with a peace Ryan hadn't experienced in years. As Emily climbed onto the couch to snuggle beside him, Ryan felt a strange but welcome sense of belonging. For the first time, he wasn't just an outsider looking in. The next morning, Sarah found Ryan in the kitchen, where he was pouring a cup of coffee. She smiled at the sight of him blending so naturally into their routine. "You've been good for Emily," she said, breaking the quiet. "I can't thank you enough for what you did." Ryan nodded, still unsure how to accept their endless gratitude. "She's a good kid," he said simply. Sarah stepped closer, her voice soft. "We meant what we said last night. You're part of our family now, as much as you want to be." Ryan looked down at the mug in his hands. He'd spent so long running from connection, fearing rejection, that the idea of staying felt both terrifying and tempting. "I'm not used to this," he admitted. "Having people care." "Well, get used to it," Sarah said with a smile. "Because we do." Later that afternoon, as snow began to fall more steadily, Tom called Ryan into the living room. Sarah sat beside him, a folded piece of paper in her hands and a gentle but serious expression on her face. "Ryan," Tom began, "we've been talking, and we want to offer you something more than just a place to stay." Ryan froze, unsure of what was coming next. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. Sarah unfolded the paper and handed it to him. It was a preliminary application to start the process of legal guardianship, or possibly adoption. Ryan's breath caught as he scanned the words. "We know this might seem sudden," Sarah said, her voice steady but warm, "and we'd never want to pressure you into something you're not ready for. But if you want it, we'd like to make this official. To give you a home for real." Ryan stared at the paper, his mind reeling. For so long, he'd been invisible, forgotten. And now, here was a family not only offering him a place to stay but a place to belong. Why would you do this?" he asked, his voice cracking. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but her smile remained steady. "Because we see you, Ryan. We see the good in you. And because everyone deserves a family." Emily, who had been quietly listening from the corner of the room, ran to Ryan and wrapped her arms around his waist. "You're my superhero," she said, looking up at him. "Please stay." For the first time in years, Ryan allowed himself to hope. Not just for a warm bed or a hot meal, but for a future where he wasn't alone. Slowly, he nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Okay," he whispered. Sarah and Tom smiled, their relief evident, while Emily cheered and hugged him tighter. For Ryan, it wasn't just a Thanksgiving miracle. It was the start of a new life. In the weeks that followed, Ryan began to settle into the rhythm of his new family. He joined Tom on errands, helped Sarah in the kitchen, and spent countless hours with Emily, who declared him her big brother. As Christmas approached, the house became even more festive, and Ryan found himself decorating, baking, and, for the first time in years, laughing. On Christmas morning, Sarah and Tom surprised Ryan with a gift, a key to the house. "You're home now," Tom said simply, his hand on Ryan's shoulder. Ryan stared at the key, his heart full. He had spent so long surviving that he had forgotten what it meant to live. Now, thanks to Emily's unwavering trust, Sarah's kindness, and Tom's steady support, he had a chance to rebuild. As they sat down for Christmas dinner, Emily led the family in a prayer of thanks. Ryan listened, his heart swelling with gratitude. This Thanksgiving had brought him more than he ever thought possible. A family, a home, and most importantly, hope.
A girl runs into the church carrying a baby. Upon discovering the reason, the priest immediately canceled the mass. The May sun spilled over the cobbled streets of Triana, tinting the whitewashed facades and the geraniums hanging from the balconies in gold. It was Sunday, and the civilian neighborhood awoke with the laziness typical of a day of rest. The few early risers heading to the Church of Our Lady of O walked leisurely, greeting each other familiarly, their footsteps blending with the distant ringing of bells. Lucia woke up with a start, her heart pounding. She looked at the old alarm clock on her nightstand, 9:15. She had overslept. She jumped out of bed, cursing under her breath, something her mother wouldn't approve of if she heard. But her mother wouldn't hear her, not today. "Miguel," she called softly, entering the adjoining room. Her 2-year-old little brother was sleeping peacefully in his crib, oblivious to the world and its worries. Lucia watched him for a moment, allowing herself a small smile. Then, with the efficiency of someone who had to grow up too fast, she began the routine of every morning. While changing Miguel and preparing his bottle, Lucia couldn't help but cast furtive glances toward the closed room at the end of the hallway. The silence emanating from there was oppressive, loaded with a tension the 12-year-old felt in every fiber of her being. "Come on, Miguelito," she murmured, lifting her brother into her arms. "We need to go see Mom." With cautious steps, Lucia approached the closed door. She took a deep breath, preparing herself for what she might find on the other side. It was always like this lately. Every morning an emotional roulette. "Mom," she called softly, pushing the door open. The room was dim, the curtains drawn, blocking out the sunlight. On the bed, barely visible under a pile of blankets, lay Marta. Her breathing was shallow, almost imperceptible. Lucia approached, setting Miguel on the floor. The little one, sensing the tension in the air, remained unusually still, his large eyes fixed on the still figure of their mother. "Mom, it's time to wake up," Lucia said, gently touching Marta's shoulder. There was no response. "Mom, please!" Panic began to rise in Lucia's chest. This wasn't like other mornings. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Mom!" she shouted, shaking Marta harder. Her mother's head moved lifelessly on the pillow, her skin pale and covered in cold sweat. Miguel, scared by his sister's shout, began to cry. The sound seemed to snap Lucia out of her stupor. With trembling hands, she reached for the phone on the nightstand and dialed the emergency number. The minutes that followed were a blur of frantic activity. The ambulance arriving, the paramedics rushing into the small apartment, the questions that Lucia could barely answer between sobs. And then, the deafening silence when they took Marta away on a stretcher, leaving Lucia and Miguel alone in an apartment that suddenly felt too big and empty. It was Mrs. Dolores, the neighbor from the downstairs apartment, who arrived first, drawn by the commotion. "Oh, my dear," she exclaimed when she saw Lucia, pale and trembling, holding on to Miguel as if he were a lifeline. "What happened?" Lucia opened her mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come out. Instead, a heart-wrenching sob escaped her throat, releasing all the tension and fear she had been holding in. Mrs. Dolores needed no further explanation. With the efficiency of someone who had lived long enough to know what to do in a crisis, she took control of the situation. "Come on, sweetheart," she said, guiding Lucia to the couch. "Sit here with your brother. I'll make a few calls." While Mrs. Dolores spoke softly on the phone, Lucia sat, gently rocking Miguel on her lap. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and fears. What if her mother didn't come back this time? What would become of them? Social services had already been asking questions, and Lucia knew the only reason she and Miguel were still together was because their mother insisted she could take care of them. It was then that her eyes landed on the small statue of the Virgin of Hope that stood in the living room. It had been a gift from her grandmother before she, too, passed away. Lucia had never been particularly religious, but at that moment, desperate to cling to something, anything, she found herself praying silently. "Please," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the serene face of the Virgin. "Please, help us." The sound of the door opening snapped her out of her improvised prayer. Mrs. Dolores came back in, her face a mix of concern and determination. "Lucia, dear," she said, sitting next to her. "I spoke to Father Antonio. He's in Mass right now, but I told him what happened. He says you should go to the church as soon as you can. He'll know what to do." Lucia nodded, feeling for the first time that morning like she had a purpose, a direction. She stood up, still holding Miguel in her arms. "Thank you, Mrs. Dolores. Can you—" "Don't worry, my dear," the neighbor interrupted, understanding the unspoken question. "I'll stay here in case the hospital calls. You go to the church." With one last glance at the statue of the Virgin, Lucia left the apartment. The sun hit her hard as she stepped out onto the street, as if the world continued turning, oblivious to her pain. For a moment, she stood paralyzed, overwhelmed by the normalcy of everything around her. Neighbors walking by, tourists taking pictures, the smell of coffee and churros wafting from the cafe on the corner. How could everything remain the same when her world was falling apart? But there was no time for reflection. With Miguel firmly held against her chest, Lucia began to run. Her bare feet, in the rush, she had forgotten to put on shoes, hit the hot pavement, but she barely noticed. Her mind was fixed on one goal, reaching the church, finding Father Antonio. The streets of Triana blurred as she ran. Some neighbors called out to her, concerned at seeing her in such a state, but Lucia didn't stop. Only when she reached the doors of the Church of Our Lady of O did she slow down. For a moment she hesitated. The Mass would be in full swing, and the thought of interrupting seemed almost sacrilegious. But the memory of her mother, pale and motionless in bed, gave her the courage she needed. With one last deep breath, Lucia pushed open the heavy wooden doors and ran into the church, Miguel's cries breaking the solemn silence of the sacred space. "Father Antonio," she shouted, her voice cracking from the effort and emotion. "It's Mom. She's... And so, on that Sunday that had begun like any other, the lives of Lucia, Father Antonio, and the entire Triana community were about to change forever. Because sometimes, it is in the darkest moments that the light of hope shines brightest. The silence that followed Lucia's desperate cry in the church was brief but intense. All eyes turned to the small, panting figure at the entrance, with her brother crying in her arms. Father Antonio, interrupted in the middle of his homily, did not hesitate for a second. With surprising agility for his age, he descended from the pulpit and hurried toward Lucia. "Calm down, daughter," he said, placing a comforting hand on the girl's shoulder. "Take a deep breath and tell me what happened." Lucia, between sobs, managed to explain the situation. Father Antonio's face darkened with each word, but he remained calm for the girl's sake. "Brothers," he addressed the congregation, "our community is in need. The Mass is suspended." A murmur of concern swept through the church, but it quickly transformed into a chorus of offers to help. Doña Carmen, the baker, was the first to step forward. "I'll take care of the little one," she said, extending her arms toward Miguel. Though hesitant, Lucia allowed the woman to take her brother. Ramon, a young man recently graduated and struggling to find work, offered to drive them to the hospital in his car. "It's old, but it'll get us there fast," he assured, already holding the keys in his hand. As they rushed out of the church, Father Antonio noticed that Lucia was clutching something in her hand, the small medal of the Virgin of Hope she always carried with her. She was gripping it so tightly her knuckles were white. The drive to the hospital was a blur of streets and traffic lights. Ramon drove with determination, skillfully navigating the Sunday traffic. In the back seat, Lucia clung to Father Antonio, her small body trembling with each sob. "Have faith, little one," the priest murmured, gently stroking Lucia's hair. "Hope never abandons us." When they arrived at the hospital, reality hit them hard. The emergency room was chaotic, full of people waiting to be seen. Father Antonio approached the information desk, his clerical collar helping him cut through the crowd. "We're looking for Marta Rodriguez," he said firmly. "She was brought in by ambulance this morning." The nurse typed into her computer, her face a mask of professional efficiency. "Oh, she's in intensive care," she informed. "Only direct family can go in." Lucia stepped forward, her chin trembling but her eyes filled with determination. "I'm her daughter." The nurse looked at her with a mix of compassion and doubt. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you're a minor. We need an adult." That's when Father Antonio intervened. "I'm her temporary guardian," he said with authority that left no room for argument. "The girl is coming with me." The nurse hesitated for a moment, but something in the priest's gaze convinced her. "Very well," she relented. "But only you two." Ramon nodded, understanding. "I'll wait here," he said, "and I'll let the others know." The hallway to the ICU seemed endless. The smell of disinfectant and the hum of machines created an unreal atmosphere. Lucia walked as if in a trance, her hand firmly gripping Father Antonio's. Finally, they reached Marta's room. Through the glass, Lucia saw her mother, connected to a web of tubes and wires, her chest rising and falling in sync with a respirator. She looked so small and fragile in that hospital bed. A doctor intercepted them before they could enter. His face was serious, his eyes tired behind his glasses. "I'm Dr. Vasquez," he introduced himself. "Are you family of Mrs. Rodriguez?" Father Antonio nodded, introducing himself and Lucia. The doctor looked at them sympathetically before continuing. "The situation is critical," he explained in a soft but firm voice. "The cancer has spread more than we thought. We're doing everything we can, but—" His voice trailed off, calm, but the message was clear. Lucia felt the ground beneath her give way. She tightened her grip on Father Antonio's hand, desperately searching for something, anything to hold on to. Is there any hope?" the priest asked, his voice barely a whisper. Dr. Vasquez hesitated. "There is a new treatment," he finally said. "It's experimental and very expensive. The hospital is trying to include her in a pilot program, but the bureaucracy—" Lucia didn't hear anything after that. Her mind had fixated on one word: hope. Without thinking, she pulled the medal of the Virgin of Hope from her pocket and pressed it against her chest. "We can raise the money," she said suddenly, her voice surprisingly firm. "Right, Father?" Father Antonio looked at the girl, surprised by her determination. Then he turned to the doctor, who observed them with a mix of compassion and skepticism. "We'll do whatever it takes," the priest finally said. "How much time do we have?" "Every minute counts, Dr. Vasquez replied. "But if we're going to try this treatment, we need an answer within a week." 1 week. 7 days to raise what was likely an astronomical sum. Father Antonio felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. But when he looked at Lucia, he saw a spark of hope in her eyes that he couldn't ignore. "A week will be enough," he said, silently praying that his words were true. The following days were a whirlwind of activity in Triana. Word of Marta's situation spread like wildfire through the neighborhood, and the response was immediate. Father Antonio turned the church into a command center, coordinating efforts and raising funds. Doña Carmen organized an unprecedented bake sale, baking day and night. Ramon used his newly acquired digital marketing skills to create a social media campaign. Even the notoriously stingy owner of the bar on the corner offered the day's total sales. Lucia, for her part, became the heart of the operation. Despite her age, she worked tirelessly, handing out flyers, helping at fundraising events, and visiting her mother at the hospital whenever she could. At night, exhausted but determined, she prayed in front of the statue of the Virgin of Hope in the church. "Please," she whispered each night, "give us a miracle." As the days passed, the amount raised grew, but not fast enough. Midweek, Father Antonio met with Lucia in the sacristy. His face was marked with worry and exhaustion. "Lucia, my child," he began, choosing his words carefully. "You've been very brave, and everyone in the neighborhood has been incredibly generous. But it's not enough, is it?" Lucia interrupted, her voice surprisingly calm. Father Antonio nodded regretfully. "We're still short more than half, and we only have 3 days left." Lucia remained silent for a moment, her mind racing. Then, suddenly, her eyes lit up. "The procession," she said. "The procession of the Virgin of Hope." Father Antonio looked at her, confused. What about the procession?" "Let's move it up," Lucia explained, her voice gaining enthusiasm. "Instead of waiting for the usual date, let's do it this Sunday. We can ask for donations during the procession. The whole neighborhood will be there, and even people from outside will come to watch." The priest's mouth dropped open. The idea was bold, almost reckless. Moving up such an important procession, changing a centuries-old tradition. And yet, as he looked at Lucia with her eyes shining with hope and determination, he knew he couldn't refuse. "It'll be complicated," he warned. "And we'll need to convince the Brotherhood, get permits from the city." "We'll make it happen," Lucia interrupted, with a confidence beyond her years. "We have to, for Mom." Father Antonio felt a surge of pride and admiration for this girl who refused to give up. Placing a hand on her shoulder, he nodded. "So be it," he said. "May the Virgin of Hope guide us." The next 2 days were a frenzy of frantic activity. Father Antonio moved heaven and earth to get the necessary permits, using every contact and favor he'd accumulated over the years. The Brotherhood, initially hesitant, was moved by Lucia's story and eventually agreed. The entire neighborhood mobilized. The women sewed at a breakneck pace to finish the Virgin's mantle. The men worked day and night to prepare the float. The children rehearsed with their drums and trumpets. And in the middle of it all was Lucia, tireless, inspiring, moving from place to place, helping wherever she could, encouraging those who faltered. Every night, no matter how late, she visited her mother in the hospital. "Hang on, Mom," she whispered, holding Marta's limp hand. "Just a little longer. On Sunday, we'll have a miracle." Sunday morning dawned bright, as if the heavens themselves wanted to contribute to the effort. From early on, the streets of Triana filled with people, neighbors, tourists, and curious onlookers drawn by the news of the extraordinary procession. In the Church of Our Lady of O, Father Antonio was putting the final touches on his homily. When Lucia came running in, her face a mix of emotions. "Father," she gasped, "the hospital called. Mom. Mom has woken up?" The priest felt his heart skip a beat. "Is she?" "Weak," Lucia answered, "but conscious. She wants to see the procession." A smile spread across Father Antonio's face. Then he said, "Let's give her a spectacle she'll never forget." The procession was unlike any Triana had ever seen. The float of the Virgin of Hope, resplendent under the morning sun, moved slowly through the streets of the neighborhood. Around it, a sea of people moved, prayed, cried, and above all, donated. Collection cans passed from hand to hand, filling at an astonishing rate. Elderly women offered their pensions, children emptied their piggy banks, and tourists, moved by the story, handed over high-value bills. And there, right behind the float, walked Lucia. With the medal of the Virgin gleaming on her chest, she moved with her head held high, her eyes fixed on the figure of hope that loomed ahead of her. When the procession passed by the hospital, Lucia saw her mother. Marta was in a wheelchair by the window, pale and gaunt, but with a smile on her lips and tears in her eyes. Their gazes met, and in that moment, Lucia knew that, no matter what happened, everything would be okay. As evening fell, when the Virgin returned to the church amidst cheers and applause, Father Antonio gathered everyone in the square. With trembling hands, he began to count the money collected. The silence was absolute as the numbers grew. 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. When he finally looked up, his eyes were shining. "We've done it," he announced, his voice breaking with emotion. "And not only that, we've exceeded the amount needed." The square erupted in cheers and tears of joy. In the midst of the celebration, Lucia quietly slipped into the church. She knelt in front of the statue of the Virgin of Hope and, for the first time in weeks, cried. But these were tears of relief, of gratitude, of renewed hope. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the medal to her heart. "Thank you for not abandoning us." Outside, the celebration continued. The neighborhood of Triana rejoiced, not just in having reached their goal, but in having rediscovered the power of community, faith, and hope. And at the center of it all, a 12-year-old girl had been the catalyst, the beacon that had guided everyone through the darkness. The road ahead would still be difficult. Marta's treatment would be long and exhausting. But now Lucia knew they wouldn't be alone. They had the Virgin of Hope by their side, and an entire neighborhood willing to fight alongside them. Dawn arrived in Triana with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The success of the extraordinary procession and the fundraising had brought new energy to the neighborhood. But now the real battle was beginning. In the small Rodriguez family apartment, Lucia woke up before the alarm went off, her mind already on high alert. She dressed quickly and went to check on Miguel, who was still sleeping peacefully in his crib. Mrs. Dolores, true to her word, had agreed to take care of the little one while Lucia accompanied her mother to the hospital to begin the experimental treatment. "I'll be back soon, champ," Lucia whispered, kissing her brother's forehead. The journey to the hospital was a whirlwind of emotions. Father Antonio, who had insisted on accompanying them, drove in silence, occasionally glancing worriedly at the rearview mirror. In the back seat, Marta, pale but determined, held Lucia's hand tightly. "Everything will be fine, my girl," Marta said, her voice barely a whisper. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." Lucia nodded, unable to speak due to the lump in her throat. The medal of the Virgin of Hope hung heavily on her chest, a constant reminder of the miracles they had already experienced. San Juan de Dios Hospital greeted them with its usual morning bustle. Nurses and doctors moved quickly through the hallways, the smell of disinfectant heavy in the air. At the oncology reception, Dr. Vasquez was waiting for them, his face a blend of professionalism and cautious hope. "Good morning," he greeted, shaking Father Antonio's hand and smiling at Lucia before turning to Marta. "Are you ready, Mrs. Rodriguez?" Marta nodded with determination. More than ever, Doctor." The admission process was swift, almost anticlimactic after all the struggle to get to this point. Before Lucia could even process it, her mother was lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to a series of machines emitting rhythmic beeps. "The treatment is intensive, Dr. Vasquez explained as a nurse prepared the first dose, "and the next few days will be tough, but this is our best chance." Lucia watched as the clear liquid began to flow through the tube into her mother's arm. Was it her imagination? Or did the medicine glow faintly under the fluorescent lights? She shook her head, dismissing the thought. This wasn't magic, it was science, so the best that money could buy. The first days passed in a blur of hope and fear. Lucia split her time between the hospital and taking care of Miguel, with Father Antonio and Mrs. Dolores taking turns to help. The entire neighborhood seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for news. At first, the signs were promising. Dr. Vasquez spoke of a positive response and tumor reduction. Marta, though exhausted by the treatment, kept her spirits up. "It's like I can feel the Virgin working inside me," she confided to Lucia one afternoon as they shared tea in the hospital room. But as the second week passed, things began to change. Marta started to suffer severe side effects: uncontrollable nausea, extreme fatigue, pain that the medication barely eased. Lucia watched helplessly as her mother weakened day by day. One particularly difficult morning, Lucia arrived at the hospital to find her mother in the midst of a crisis. Marta was screaming in pain, her body arching on the bed as nurses struggled to stabilize her. "Mom!" Lucia cried, running toward the bed. A nurse intercepted her, preventing her from getting closer. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you have to wait outside," she said firmly but kindly. Lucia was pushed into the hallway, where she came face to face with Father Antonio, who had just arrived. Seeing the panic in the girl's eyes, the priest wrapped her in a protective embrace. "Have faith, little one," he murmured. "Hope won't abandon us." But as the hours passed and Marta's condition remained critical, Lucia felt something break inside her. Doubt, that silent enemy of faith, began to creep into her heart. That night, when she was finally allowed to see her mother, Lucia barely recognized her. Marta lay motionless, her face gaunt and her skin a grayish tone. The machines around her beeped and buzzed, as if they were fighting to keep her alive. Lucia approached the bed, trembling, and took her mother's hand in hers. It was cold to the touch. "Mom," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please don't give up, I need you. Miguel needs you." But Marta didn't respond. Her eyes remained closed, her breathing shallow and labored. It was in that moment that Lucia felt something inside her shatter. All the faith, all the hope she had held on to for weeks seemed to evaporate in an instant. With trembling hands, she tore the medal of the Virgin from her neck. "Why?" she screamed, looking at the small metal image. "Why are you doing this to us? You were supposed to help us." Father Antonio, who had been watching from the doorway, quickly approached. "Lucia, daughter, calm down," he said, trying to embrace her. But Lucia pushed him away. "No!" she yelled. "I don't tell me to calm down. Look at her, she's dying. Where is your God now? Where is the Virgin of Hope?" In a fit of rage, Lucia threw the medal to the floor. The small metal object bounced off the tiles, the sound echoing in the silent room. Father Antonio was speechless, shocked by the child's outburst. Lucia, exhausted and broken, collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. That's when something unexpected happened. A high-pitched, steady beep filled the room. The machines connected to Marta began to sound alarms. "Code Blue," a nurse shouted from the door. Within seconds, the room was filled with medical staff. Lucia was pushed back, watching in horror as the doctors fought to revive her mother. "Dr. Vasquez appeared, barking orders as they prepared the defibrillator. "Charge to 300, he ordered. "Clear!" Marta's body jolted with the shock. Lucia squeezed her eyes shut, unable to watch. She felt Father Antonio's arms around her, holding her as the chaos unfolded. The minutes stretched on like hours. Shock after shock, the doctors refused to give up. Lucia could hear Dr. Vasquez muttering, "Come on, Marta, fight in between each attempt." And then, just when it seemed all hope was lost, it happened. A faint, regular beep began to sound. Lucia opened her eyes to see Dr. Vasquez leaning over her mother, a smile of relief on his tired face. "We've got her back," he announced. "It's weak, but she's stable." A collective sigh filled the room. Nurses began adjusting equipment and administering medication, while Dr. Vasquez approached Lucia and Father Antonio. "It was close," he said quietly. "But your mother is a fighter, Lucia." "She didn't give up." Lucia nodded, unable to speak. The emotions overwhelmed her: relief, fear, guilt for her earlier outburst. Father Antonio held her tighter, whispering a prayer of thanks. It was then that Lucia noticed something on the floor. The medal of the Virgin of Hope lay there, shining softly under the hospital lights. With trembling hands, she bent down to pick it up. "I'm sorry," she whispered, stroking the small image. "I lost my faith for a moment." Father Antonio knelt beside her. "Faith isn't easy, Lucia," he said softly. "Sometimes it wavers, sometimes it seems to disappear. But if it's true, it always finds its way back." Lucia looked at the medal in her hand and then at her mother, now breathing more steadily. Perhaps, she thought, the true miracle wasn't the instant healing she had hoped for, but the strength to keep fighting, to not give up even in the darkest moments. The following days were a roller coaster of emotions. Marta stabilized, but her condition remained critical. Dr. Vasquez explained that the experimental treatment had caused an unexpected reaction, and that they would need to adjust the protocol. It's uncharted territory, he admitted. But the fact that Marta survived this crisis gives us hope. Her body is fighting. Lucia spent every moment she could at the hospital, splitting her time between caring for her mother and Miguel. The neighborhood of Triana, hearing what had happened, mobilized once again. Neighbors took turns bringing meals to the hospital, looking after Miguel, and even cleaning the Rodriguez apartment. One afternoon, as Lucia sat by her mother's bedside, reading to her quietly, she felt a slight squeeze on her hand. She looked up to find her mother's eyes open, focused on her. "My brave girl," Marta whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. Lucia felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Mom," she sobbed, leaning down to hug her gently. "I thought I'd lost you," Marta smiled weakly. "You'll never lose me, darling. I'm here, fighting for you and for Miguel." It was then that Dr. Vasquez entered the room, a look of amazement on his face as he saw Marta awake and aware. "This is extraordinary," he said, quickly moving to examine his patient. After a few minutes of tests and questions, he turned to Lucia with a cautious smile. "It seems we're seeing the first real signs of improvement. The latest scans show a significant reduction in the tumor." Lucia felt her heart leap. "Does that mean, Dr. Vasquez raised a hand, urging caution. "Oh, it's still too early to declare victory. The road ahead is long and difficult. But this," he gestured to Marta, "this gives us real reason to hope." That night, when Lucia finally returned home, she found Father Antonio waiting for her at the building's entrance. The priest looked at her with a mixture of concern and hope. "Hey, how is your mother?" he asked gently. Lucia, exhausted but with a renewed spark in her eyes, told him about Marta waking up and the hopeful words from Dr. Vasquez. Father Antonio listened intently, a smile slowly forming on his face. "Lucia," he said when she finished, "do you remember what I told you about faith?" Lucia nodded, recalling their conversation in the hospital room. "That sometimes it wavers, but it always finds its way back." "Exactly," Father Antonio nodded. "And sometimes, my child, it's in those moments of doubt, when we think all is lost, that the true miracles happen." Lucia reflected on his words, remembering her moment of crisis, how she had thrown the medal to the floor in a fit of despair. And yet, it was right after that moment that her mother began to fight, when hope began to rekindle. "Ain't Father," Lucia said, pulling the medal from her pocket, "do you think the Virgin has forgiven me for doubting?" Father Antonio smiled tenderly. "Lucia, one, faith isn't about never having doubts. It's about moving forward despite them. The Virgin of Hope doesn't need to forgive you because you never truly lost hope, even in your darkest moment." Lucia looked at the medal in her hand, the serene face of the Virgin shining softly under the streetlight. Perhaps, she thought, the real lesson in all of this wasn't about instant miracles or unshakable faith, but about perseverance in the hardest moments. With a deep sigh, Lucia slipped the medal back around her neck. "Thank you, Father," she said, hugging the priest. "For everything." Father Antonio returned the hug, feeling the weight of the past weeks on the girl's shoulders. "Go rest," he said softly. "Tomorrow will be another day of battle." As Lucia climbed the stairs to her apartment, she felt a mixture of exhaustion and renewed determination. The fight was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, she felt they had a real chance of winning. The following days brought a series of ups and downs that tested Lucia's newly restored faith. Marta showed signs of improvement, but the treatment remained brutally hard. There were days when the pain was so intense that Marta could barely speak. And Lucia felt helpless, able only to hold her mother's hand and murmur words of encouragement. One morning, while Lucia was helping her mother eat a little soup, Marta looked at her with an intensity that surprised her. "Lucia, my dear," Marta said, her voice weak but determined, "I need you to promise me something." Lucia felt a knot in her stomach. "Anything, Mom." Marta took a deep breath before continuing. If things don't go as we hope, promise me you'll take care of Miguel. That you'll keep going, that you'll live your life to the fullest." Lucia felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Mom, don't talk like that. You're going to get better, I know it." Marta smiled weakly. I have faith in that, darling. But I also know life is unpredictable. Promise me, please. With a heavy heart, Lucia nodded. I promise, Mom. But you have to promise me something too. Promise me you'll keep fighting, that you won't give up. I promise, Marta said, squeezing her daughter's hand. That conversation stayed etched in Lucia's mind, a constant reminder of what was at stake. Every day became a battle, not just against the cancer, but against discouragement, exhaustion, and fear. The neighborhood of Triana remained an unshakable pillar of support. Doña Carmen, the baker, regularly showed up with bags full of freshly baked pastries. It'll help you get your strength back, she would say to Marta with a warm smile. Ramon, the young man who had been unemployed, had found a temporary job thanks to a contact from Father Antonio, and he donated part of his first paycheck to help with the additional treatment costs. One afternoon, while Lucia was in the hospital chapel, praying silently, she felt a hand on her shoulder. Turning around, she found herself face to face with Dr. Vasquez. Lucia, the doctor said, his face a mixture of contained emotion, I need you to come with me. I have news about your mother. Lucia's heart skipped a beat. Would it be good news, or... No, she couldn't let herself think of that possibility. With trembling legs, she followed the doctor to his office. Once inside, Dr. Vasquez invited her to sit. Lucia noticed that his hands trembled slightly as he held a folder. Lucia, the doctor began, his voice carefully controlled. We've received the latest test results for your mother. Lucia held her breath, her hand instinctively reaching for the medal of the Virgin. Dr. Vasquez paused, as if searching for the right words. Then slowly a smile began to form on his face. The results are surprising. The tumor has shrunk by more than 50%. It's a response to the treatment that, frankly, we didn't expect to see so soon. Lucia felt the world stop. Does that mean it means your mother is responding exceptionally well to the treatment, Mo? Dr. Vasquez explained. There's still a long way to go, but this is more than we dared to hope for at this stage. Tears began to flow down Lucia's cheeks, but this time they were tears of joy, of relief, of renewed hope. Without thinking, she leaped up and hugged the surprised doctor. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doctor. Vasquez moved, awkwardly returned the hug. Don't thank me, Lucia. Your mother is an incredible fighter. And you've been her rock through all of this. When they finally parted, Lucia was beaming. Can I tell my mother? She asked, eager to share the good news. Dr. Vasquez nodded. Of course. In fact, why don't we go together? I'd like to explain the details to her and discuss the next steps in the treatment. Together, they headed to Marta's room. As they entered, Lucia saw her mother sitting up, gazing pensively out the window. When she saw them, Marta straightened, a spark of worry in her eyes. What's going on? She asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. Lucia ran to the bed, unable to contain her excitement. Mom, the doctor has good news. Vasquez calmly approached, explaining the test results in detail. As he spoke, Lucia watched her mother's face transform. Worry gave way to astonishment and then to cautious joy. Is it real? Marta asked, her voice trembling. Is it really working? Dr. Vasquez nodded with a smile. It's real, Marta. We still have a long road ahead, but these results are extremely encouraging. Marta extended her arms, pulling Lucia into a tight embrace. Mother and daughter cried together, this time with tears of joy and hope. We did it, my girl, Marta whispered. We're winning this battle. Lucia nodded, unable to speak through her emotion. It felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to think about the future, about the real possibility that her mother might fully recover. That night, after Marta finally fell asleep with a smile on her lips, Lucia quietly left the room. In the hallway, she found Father Antonio, who had come for his daily visit. Hi, Father, Lucia said, her face glowing. I have to tell you something. As Lucia recounted the good news, the priest's face lit up more and more. When she finished, Father Antonio hugged her tightly. Do you see, Lucia? He said, his voice filled with emotion. Hope is never truly lost. Sometimes we just need to go through the darkness to appreciate the light. Lucia nodded, deeply understanding the priest's words. She remembered her moments of doubt, how she had come close to losing her faith, and yet here they were, living what could only be described as a miracle. "Father," Lucia said, nervously playing with the medal around her neck, "I think I understand now. Faith, it's not just about believing when things are going well, is it? It's about holding on to hope even in the darkest moments." Father Antonio smiled proudly. "Exactly, my child. You've learned a lesson that many adults struggle to grasp. True faith is forged in times of trial." Together, they walked to the hospital's small chapel. Lucia knelt in front of the image of the Virgin of Hope, similar to the one they had in the church in Triana. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "And for not abandoning us even when I doubted." As she prayed, Lucia felt a peace she hadn't experienced in months. She knew the road ahead would still be difficult, that there would be more challenges to face. But now, armed with stronger faith and renewed hope, she felt ready to face whatever came next. As they left the chapel, Lucia paused for a moment, looking out the window at the streets of Seville. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was a beautiful sight, a reminder that even after the darkest days, there is always light on the horizon. "Let's go," Father Antonio said softly. "And we need to share the good news with the neighborhood. Everyone has been praying and waiting." Lucia nodded, a smile lighting up her face. "Yes, they need to know." Everyone was part of this miracle. As they walked together toward the hospital exit, Lucia felt a mix of emotions: relief, gratitude, hope, and, above all, a renewed determination. The battle against her mother's cancer wasn't over, but now they had something powerful on their side: the certainty that miracles, big and small, were possible. The neighborhood of Triana was waiting for them, that community that had come together in the darkest moments. Lucia knew that, no matter what happened, they would never be alone. The strength of hope, faith, and the love of a community had proven to be more powerful than any adversity. As they stepped into the warm Sevillian night, Lucia made a silent promise. No matter what the future held, she would keep that flame of hope alive. For her mother, for Miguel, for all those who had believed and supported them. The girl who had run into the church weeks ago, desperate and scared, now walked with her head held high, ready to face any challenge life might throw her way. The following months passed in a whirlwind of treatments, hospital visits, and an emotional roller coaster. Lucia, now freshly 13 years old, had matured in a way no one could have imagined possible. Her face, though still young, showed a wisdom and strength that went far beyond her years. It was a sunny Sunday morning when Lucia entered the Church of Our Lady of O, hand in hand with her mother. Marta, though still thin and with hair only just beginning to grow back after chemotherapy, walked with renewed strength. Behind them, Miguel, now a lively 3-year-old, ran around playfully, unaware of the importance of the moment. Father Antonio greeted them at the door with a beaming smile. "Welcome," he said, embracing Marta first and then Lucia. "It's wonderful to see you both here." The church was packed. It seemed like all of Triana had gathered for the occasion. Doña Carmen, the baker, waved from her usual pew. Ramon, now with a stable job thanks to Father Antonio's contacts, smiled shyly. Mrs. Dolores, tears in her eyes, gestured for them to sit next to her. When Father Antonio climbed to the pulpit, an expectant silence fell over the congregation. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice echoing in the ancient walls of the church. "Today we are here to celebrate a miracle of faith, of hope, and of love." As Father Antonio spoke about Marta's battle, about Lucia's strength, and how the community had come together, Lucia felt tears streaming down her cheeks. But this time, they were tears of joy and gratitude. "And a few months ago," the priest continued, "a young girl ran into this church, desperate and frightened. Today, that same girl sits among us, transformed into an example of faith and perseverance for all of us." Lucia felt her mother squeeze her hand. When she looked at Marta, she saw that she too was silently crying. "Marta," Father Antonio said, addressing her directly, "your struggle has taught us the true meaning of strength. And Lucia, little one, your unshakable hope has been a beacon of light for all of us." The priest paused, looking at the congregation. "But this miracle doesn't belong solely to the Rodriguez family. It is a miracle for our entire community. Each of you, with your prayers, your support, and your love, has been part of this story of hope. When the Mass ended, the square in front of the church filled with people. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers approached to hug Marta and Lucia, to share in their joy and celebrate the victory over illness. In the middle of the crowd, Lucia saw Dr. Vasquez. The doctor, normally serious and professional, smiled broadly as he chatted with some of the parishioners. "Doctor," Lucia called, walking over to him. "Thank you for coming." Dr. Vasquez looked at her warmly. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world, Lucia. Your mother? Well, all of you are an exceptional case. You've taught us so much about the power of will and the importance of emotional support and recovery." Lucia nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "Oh, Dr. Hunt," she said after a moment. "Do you think it was a miracle?" The doctor seemed to ponder for a moment. "Lucia, as a scientist, I believe in facts and evidence. The treatment worked in a way that exceeded all our expectations. But," he paused, looking around at the community celebrating, "if you ask me whether I think something else was at play, something science can't fully explain, well, after all I've seen, I'm open to that possibility." Lucia smiled, grateful for his honesty. At that moment, she felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Marta. "Hi, my girl," her mother said. "There's someone who wants to talk to you." Lucia turned to see a young woman, around 30 years old, looking at her with tearful eyes. "Hello, Lucia," the woman said, her voice trembling. "You don't know me, but I followed your story. You see, my sister was diagnosed with cancer a few weeks ago, and I was losing hope. But your strength, your faith, it's given me the courage to keep fighting." "Thank you." Lucia, moved, hugged the woman without hesitation. "Never lose hope," she whispered. "Sometimes it's all we have, but it's more powerful than we realize." As the celebration continued around her, Lucia stepped away for a moment, seeking a quiet place. She approached the statue of the Virgin of Hope that stood in the square. Looking at the serene face of the Virgin, Lucia reflected on everything they had been through. "Thank you," she murmured, touching the medal that hung around her neck. "For the strength, for the faith, for the hope." She felt a presence beside her and turned to see Father Antonio. "You know, Lucia," the priest said softly, "sometimes miracles aren't grand, spectacular events. Sometimes they are small moments of grace and of love, of community, and you, my dear, have been the catalyst for many of those miracles." Lucia thought about his words. She thought about how the neighborhood had come together, how people who barely spoke before were now like family. She thought about Ramon, who had found purpose by helping others, about Doña Carmen, whose generosity had inspired so many more. "Father," Lucia said after a moment, "do you think things will go back to normal now?" Father Antonio smiled. "No, Lucia, I think we've discovered a new normal. One where we know that together we can overcome any adversity. And that, my dear, is the true miracle." As the sun began to set over Triana, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Lucia looked around. She saw her mother laughing with old friends, her face radiant with health and happiness. She saw Miguel playing carefreely with other children. She saw her neighbors, united by an experience that had changed them all forever. And in that moment, Lucia understood that the journey wasn't over. Life would continue to present challenges and difficult moments. But now she knew, with unshakable certainty, that with faith, hope, and the love of a community, there was no obstacle they couldn't overcome. As night fell over Seville and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Lucia closed her eyes, grateful for every moment, every tear, every laugh that had brought them to this point. The future was uncertain, but she no longer feared it. Because now she knew that the true power of hope lay not just in believing in miracles, but in being part of them. Time passed, as it always does, bringing with it changes and new challenges. 5 years had gone by since that Sunday when Lucia ran into the Church of Our Lady of O, desperate and scared. Now, at 18 years old, Lucia once again stood before the church doors, but this time with a serene smile on her face and a suitcase at her feet. It was a warm September morning, and the streets of Triana buzzed with the typical Saturday activity. The aroma of coffee and freshly fried churros floated in the air, mixing with the scent of flowers adorning the balconies. Lucia took a deep breath. filling her lungs with the familiar air of her neighborhood, aware that soon she would be far from all of this. "Are you ready, sweetheart?" Marta asked, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Lucia nodded, turning to look at her mother. Marta, now 5 years cancer-free, radiated health and vitality. Her hair, once stolen by chemotherapy, now fell in soft waves over her shoulders. Her eyes, once clouded by fear and pain, now shone with pride and love. "Almost," Lucia replied. "I just need to do one more thing." With determined steps, Lucia entered the church. The interior was dim, lit only by the glow of candles and the rays of sunlight filtering through the stained glass windows. She headed directly to the image of the Virgin of Hope, the same one before which she had prayed so many times during her mother's illness. She knelt, closing her eyes for a moment. It wasn't a prayer she offered now, but a silent thank you for her mother's life, for the strength she had discovered within herself, for the kindness of her community. "I thought I'd find you here," said a familiar voice behind her. Lucia turned to see Father Antonio, now with completely white hair but still wearing his ever-warm smile. "I couldn't leave without saying goodbye," Lucia said, standing up. Father Antonio looked at her with a mix of pride and nostalgia. "You've grown so much, Lucia. Not just in stature, but in spirit. Who would have thought that the frightened little girl would become the strong, compassionate young woman you are today?" Lucia felt tears threatening to spill, but she held them back. "All thanks to you, Father. To you and to the whole community." The priest shook his head. "No, Lucia, the strength was always within you. We just helped you discover it." Together, they walked toward the church exit. In the plaza, a group of neighbors had gathered. Doña Carmen, Ramon, Miss and Dolores, and even Dr. Vasquez were there to say goodbye. "Our little heroine is off to university," Doña Carmen exclaimed, hugging Lucia tightly. Ramon, now a successful local businessman, handed her a small package. "Oh, so you never forget where you come from," he said with a smile. Lucia opened the package to find a photo album. As she flipped through it, she saw pictures from the past 5 years. The extraordinary procession, celebrations at the hospital, everyday moments in the neighborhood. Each photo was a reminder of the incredible journey they had shared. "Doctor," Vasquez approached, his face a mix of professional pride and personal affection. "Hi, Lucia," he said. "When you decide to specialize, remember that there's a place waiting for you at our hospital. Your experience and compassion would be invaluable in oncology." Lucia nodded, grateful. Her decision to study medicine had been directly inspired by her experience with her mother's illness, and by the dedication she had seen in doctors like Dr. Vasquez. Miguel, now an energetic 8-year-old, threw himself at his sister. "Do you have to go?" he asked, his big eyes pleading. Lucia knelt to be at his level. "Yes, I have to go, but I'll come back often, I promise. And when I come back, I'll tell you all about my adventures." As Lucia said goodbye to each of her neighbors and friends, she couldn't help but reflect on how much things had changed. The neighborhood that had once come together in adversity was now a stronger, more united community in every way. The shared experience had left an indelible mark on them all. Finally, it was time to leave. Marta hugged her daughter tightly. "I'm so proud of you, my girl," she whispered. "Go and conquer the world. But remember, you'll always have a home here." Lucia nodded, unable to speak through the lump in her throat. She picked up her suitcase and began walking toward the taxi that was waiting for her. But before getting in, she stopped and turned to look one last time at her neighborhood, at her people. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for teaching me the true meaning of hope, of faith, and of love. I will carry your lessons with me always." As the taxi pulled away, Lucia looked out the back window. She saw her mother, Miguel, Father Antonio, and everyone else waving goodbye. And above them, the bell tower of the Church of Our Lady of O rose against the blue sky of Seville, a beacon of hope that would always guide her back home. In that moment, Lucia understood that the true strength of hope didn't reside in grand miracles or dramatic moments. It was in the small acts of kindness, in a community coming together in difficult times, in the faith that persists even in the deepest darkness. As Seville faded into the distance, Lucia touched the Virgin of Hope medal she still wore around her neck. It wasn't just a reminder of hard times, but a symbol of everything she had learned and the person she had become. The future stretched out before her, full of possibilities and challenges. But Lucia no longer felt afraid. She knew that, no matter what life threw at her, she would always carry with her the strength of hope, the love of her family, and the wisdom of her community. And so, with her heart full of gratitude and her eyes set on the horizon, Lucia embarked on the next chapter of her life, carrying with her the legacy of hope that Triana had gifted her.